Welcome back to New World Next Week. I'm James Corbett of CorbettReport.com.
And I'm James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. The standard is extremely low, and the chances of them not getting it through are, quite frankly, almost nothing. We have got that story, plus deathless billionaires. But first, deathless billionaires NATO summit in Ankara. Who's attending? What's at stake? Scumbags? Weapon sales? NATO leaders meeting in Ankara, Turkey, this past Tuesday and Wednesday. Summit got underway as U.S. DJ President Trump renews pressure on the member states over defense spending. It's really more offense. European nations expected to respond with billions of dollars in new military contracts. At the NATO summit last year, members agreed to increase their target to 5% of their GDP, 3.5% on military spending by 2035, and 1.5% on security-related needs. Leaders from all 32 NATO members, you can't just get one more in there? Are at the summit in Turkey this week. Two non-alliance heads of state, of course, will be there. The one most likely to become the 33rd member, of course, Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine, and South Korea's Lee Jae-myung. Australia, Japan, New Zealand are sending defense or foreign ministers, as are Gulf countries affected by the U.S. war on Iran, which has gone completely hot again. Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Syrian President Ahmad al-Sharaa is not expected to attend the summit, but is holding a little side action meeting with Trump in Ankara. Trump has questioned NATO's value since his first presidential campaign. He argued that the U.S. carried an unfair share of the costs. At the time, only 5 countries spent the agreed 2% GDP on defense. His questions about shared defense responsibility have produced some results in recent years within the alliance as member states pledged an increased defense budget. Germany beats out ambitious South Korea bid for Canada's biggest arms buy. James, Trump's bad, but also kill yourself. I love watching fake peaceniks like Canada and France spend and sell billions of dollars in weapons of war. Remember, March 11th, 2024, France overtakes Russia as world's number 2 arms exporter. We will include the link right to the Horse's Mouth NATO 2026 summit in Ankara, a few other related links on a little bit of warmongering and weapons. U.S. strikes Iran as Trump meets with NATO leaders in Turkey, as Trump signals openness to selling some F-35 fighters to Turkey on that little side meeting. Trump renews Greenland threats at NATO summit, says U.S. could remove troops from Europe. I love those kind of threats. UK to unveil $50 billion NATO effort for deep strike weapons, and Canada to reveal new global defense bank at NATO summit. James, this says it all to me. It feels all in a nutshell. Trump's bad, but paying for our own weapons is even worse, right?
The hypocrisy is galling, isn't it? But for those of us who can actually walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, Trump's bad and NATO's bad. Imagine that. Wow, we can say it all.
Why not both?
Exactly. But it does, you raise the interesting question. What even is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in 2026? A full, 3.5 decades after the fall of the evil Soviet boogeyman. What even is NATO? And I think you encapsulate it pretty well there. Scumbags and defense spending. Offense spending, as you rightly correct there. Let's get some of the flavor of that from some of the updates. As we are recording here Thursday morning, Japanese time, I believe they're just wrapping up the summit right now. So there might be some new stories that we miss coming out of there. But some of the latest that I have, Zelensky in Ankara still insistent on Ukraine joining NATO. So if there is going to be a 33, it might be Ukraine, and that might be World War III. Cool. And also this new U.S. attacks on Iran were absolutely necessary, says NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, because of course he is going to say that, along with the offense spending side of this, which I think is the real point of this. War is a racket. We all know that phrase. Do we really know what it means? Yes, war is essentially ka-ching, ka-ching for a certain section of society. And these are the people that are gathering at the NATO summit. One example of that here from Zero Hedge, Rutte touts literally billions invested to drastically ramp up NATO's drone capabilities. Yay. And in case we need to hammer the point home any further, there is a separate forum that's taking place on the sidelines of this meeting called the NATO Summit Defense Industry Forum. Because, of course, this is just bringing together the military-industrial complex with the people who are feeding them the contracts. Yeah, of course, they're collaborating. This isn't conspiracy. This is actually how the system functions. This is what it's for. It is for feeding the never-ending war machine. And yeah, there's that weird story about Canada launching some sort of global defense bank at NATO. I will have more to say on that in my newsletter this weekend. It's a strange little story, but I think ties into a bigger picture. So I'll be elaborating on that this weekend. Stay tuned to CorbettReport.com for that.
We have that in the show notes coming from the cradle. Canada to reveal new global defense bank at NATO summit. James, I know recently I've been griping on here about looking for people to actually put their source notes into their videos. And you know who I ran back into the other day playing one of his latest videos on my morning show this morning? The one and only Dabu. You click his show notes. It's the stories that he's discussing. Here's my bibliography. And then after all that, if you like my work, buy me a coffee. You can support me. Dabu rules. Love you, buddy. Yeah, I don't know if you've been to like conferences or conventions, you know, there's like breakout meetings and other smaller groups that they literally call them breakout meetings. But yeah, the arms makers fund both sides. Always have and always will. And in related news, wondering about why Ukraine or who others might be in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Canada will be allowed to join Eurovision. You know, the NATO Battle of the Bands song contest, James. That's how we get going on New World Next Week, episode 636. And our second story, James, this trial is probably getting much, much closer. And it just struck me, I don't know that we've actually covered what ended up being a little surprising to myself, one of the biggest stories of the last decade. And that's the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Just grabbing it from the AP. Former officer describes finding rooftop sniper pad after Charlie Kirk assassination. A former campus police officer testified that he found an apparent sniper pad on a rooftop near where Charlie Kirk was assassinated as prosecutors sought to convince a state judge they have enough evidence to put a Utah man on trial for murder. Former Utah Valley University officer Christopher Bagley said he witnessed Kirk's shooting while the conservative activist was speaking on September 10th to a crowd of thousands. Soon after, Bagley searched a nearby gravel rooftop where it appeared someone had been lying prone with a clear sight line to Kirk's location. He said, "Looks like a sniper's pad." That's the artist formerly known as Sniper's Nest. That's what they always called the Oswald Book Depository, but now it's a pad. Bagley said, "You've got markings of elbows, knees, and feet." The testimony came as Kirk's parents, Catherine and Robert, and his widow, Erica, were in the courtroom for the first time since the case began, along with the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. Again, we are not in ordinary times. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty for, he finally gets a mention about 5 paragraphs into the article for defendant Tyler Robinson, 23, who is charged with aggravated murder. Robinson turned himself in the day after the shooting. He has not yet entered a plea, and his attorneys have not yet commented on his guilt or innocence. They have, however, sought to get the death penalty taken off the table, so far unsuccessfully. Prosecutors showed several videos of Kirk's shooting as they made their case to District Judge Tony Graff. Attorneys from both sides tried to literally shield their monitors from courtroom spectators after Graff said the assassination videos couldn't be publicized because of their graphic nature. The sound was still audible in court. Kirk's response to a question about mass shootings in the U.S. is interrupted by a loud pop, followed by screams. The proceedings this week resemble a mini-trial, which the red underline on my text file says that's not a real word. But it resembles a mini-trial. Prosecutors need only demonstrate that there are reasonable grounds to believe Robinson killed Kirk. Prosecutors should have little trouble advancing their case, said Mark Corris, former prosecutor and state judge in Salt Lake City. This standard is extremely low, and the chances of them not getting it through are quite frankly, almost nothing. Now an adjunct professor for the University of Utah's S.J. Quinney College of Law, prosecutors allege Tyler Robinson confessed in a note left for his gender-fluid furry roommate, who was also his romantic partner, that read, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." No idea why Lance Twiggs isn't charged in this case as well. FBI forensic examiner testifies, this is the latest I have for you from today's hearing, that DNA from Tyler Robinson and his gay lover was found on items left after Charlie Kirk's murder. James, have you been... I don't know why I guess I should be surprised about anything this day and age. The massive effect of this event, and not to downplay the brutal snuff film assassination of anybody, but just one odd sidebar. You know, I do a lot of music coverage in Media Monarchy. All last year, I did a chronological deep dive into Ramones every Friday over the entire year. And I was using a guy's YouTube videos. They were little short reviews of Ramones albums, and they were perfect to use. And I was downloading them, some of them, then his channel scrubbed. Where'd all the Ramones reviews videos go? He removed all of that, changed his description to say he is a man of Christ, and had videos about Charlie Kirk shooting. I was like, man, this has rattled a bunch of people. I don't know what your take is over there, though.
Yeah, if this is the biggest story of the decade, I would maybe add the caveat in America, because honestly, I don't think anyone over here is
sorry.
about it. But yeah, I haven't been following this story at all, so I know nothing about the twists and turns. I don't even know Lance Twiggs or whatever reference that is. Having looked into it exactly 0%, I am certain it was some sort of conspiracy in some way. This is the only question is what way. And I know there was all this stuff about Egyptian planes and French Secret Service and Mossad, and now I've understand it's 100% totally definitively concluded it was an exploding microphone, not a gun. Whatever, I don't know. As I say, I'm not following this at all. I have never listened to Charlie Kirk for 1 second in my entire life, and I don't plan to start now. So I haven't been following this at all. But if people are interested in following the story, will you be covering the twists and turns of the trial on Morning Monarchy?
I definitely will, if not in depth every single day, but just as it moves forward. Because we also, speaking of American trials, we've also got the Luigi Mangione case that's going to be coming up here pretty soon in New York. Really interesting. Yeah, just strange, bizarre things. Definitely lots of pointing fingers at the aforementioned Mossad. I saw stuff today that said Ben Shapiro is receiving information that was more concerned about his situational awareness than his buddy dying on the way to the hospital. Just really weird stuff. The main conspiracy being Charlie Kirk said, I'm not going to kiss Israel's ass. And he suddenly very much was not. So I think it's good that we get that on the record here on New World Next Week as things move at a rapid pace. And we have been serving up New World Next Week for you since October 2009. James, I played a clip from from our episode This Day in 2010. I don't even know what number it was. It was so low, we weren't even numbering them yet. Our third and final story takes us, of course, to wild card territory in New World Next Week. Millionaire who spends $2 million annually to live forever has incurable disease. Good night, everybody. Anti-aging millionaire Brian Johnson. It's a boring name. Tech entrepreneur famous for spending nearly $2 million a year to reverse aging has revealed a devastating health battle that even his obsessive wellness routine couldn't prevent. The 48-year-old disclosed that he has been diagnosed with autoimmune gastritis, American AIG, a rare condition in which the body's immune system attacks the stomach lining. In a candid post on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, Johnson stunned followers by writing, I have an autoimmune disease, my stomach is eating itself. He warns that the illness often develops silently, affecting an estimated 2 to 5% of people, and can lead to iron deficiency, anemia, and even an increased risk of stomach cancer if left undetected. Brian Johnson revealed that he had that the disease had likely been progressing unnoticed for years. His godlike doctors couldn't find it? Although he was diagnosed with hypothyroidism at the age of 21 and managed it with hormone replacement therapy, another hidden autoimmune disorder was quietly damaging his stomach. Despite trying different iron supplements, dietary changes, and other interventions, his body's iron stores never recovered. The breakthrough came after Johnson overhauled his medical team, fired a bunch of people, which ordered a bidirectional endoscopy. Glad I can mangle those words. That means I haven't actually had to go through that stuff. Blood tests and multiple stomach biopsies. Blood work showed antiparietal cell antibodies nearly 5 times above the normal limits, while stomach biopsies confirmed early-stage autoimmune gastritis, AIG if you're nasty. His colonoscopy came back completely normal, ruling out hidden internal bleeding. According to Johnson, the diagnosis also explained the connection between his thyroid disorder and chronic iron deficiency, a combination doctors referred to as thyrogastric syndrome. In related news, Brian Johnson received one Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. He publicly shared on LinkedIn that he received the shot, noting his amazement that it was one of the first investments through his venture capital firm, OS Fund. So he literally he can, fund it all for himself. This reminds me, did you ever hear of a movie with, Robert De Niro and Bradley Cooper, two of my favorite intelligence cutouts? They made a movie called Limitless, PG-13, 2011, a mysterious pill that enables the user to access 100% of his brain's abilities, transform a struggling writer into a financial wizard, but it also puts him in a new world with many dangers. The related links: meet the longevity billionaires who refuse to die. Maybe that's this guy's problem. He's just a millionaire. And as I've said a million times on my show, there's no way all rich people are bad. As I have said, if I get rich, I promise you I won't create problems. You will never literally ever see me again. New heights for new limit. One word, camel case, as anti-aging biotech nabs $435 million to rejuvenate old cells. No, you can't buy stock in them yet. But yeah, Father Time remains undefeated. Apart from Keith Richards. Hey, sidebar, new Rolling Stones album comes out this Friday, James. What about this weirdo, man?
Thank you for, I better add the note to my calendar. Do not buy anything on that day. Anyway, Stones. Anyway.
Oh, that's right. You're the Beatles guy. Sorry.
I'm just not a Stones fan. Having said that, for people who don't know about this obsession that the new Silicon Valley technocratic elite have with beating death, you can look up into it. For example, you can see my Strange Story of Peter Thiel, Part 3, Peter Thiel as a Vampire, in which I go through the various parts of the puzzle showing how Peter Thiel is massively invested in these various companies doing things like harvesting the blood of the young for transfusion into the elderly so that they can maintain their youth. And although there is no direct evidence, at least not in the public record, that Peter Thiel is a literal blood-drinking vampire, chances are. But having said that, so this isn't just Thiel. It isn't just this Brian Johnson guy. It's literally all these Silicon people are obsessed with it, with one notable exception. And I'll throw in this intriguing little article that's just come out in the past few days. Elon Musk's answer to mortality. And as people know, I am not part of the cult of personality of this Neuralink brain chipping military intelligence cutout SpaceX technocratic overlord. But he does say things at the very least to be contrary. And in this case, broken clocks, right? Twice a day. He, for example, recently said there is some benefit to death. Yes, exactly. He warned that dramatically extending human lifespans could lead to an ossification of society, leaving institutions increasingly rigid and ideas stultifying as the same generation remained in power indefinitely. And ultimately, this article goes on to make the point that Musk does believe that ultimately death is kind of an engineering problem that will be solved by technology, but maybe we shouldn't prioritize that because maybe people should die anyway, which, come to think of it, coming from somebody in his position with his power, maybe that's not such a good thing after all. But no, the idea that, maybe death and new life is actually a good thing, and maybe this is part of the way humans should exist on this planet rather than trying to live forever. What could go wrong? Oh, right, an incurable disease that I got after my millions and millions sunk into my health regimen. I'll live forever. It's like a Twilight Zone story. So the Schadenfreude is palpable and tasty at this point. I don't know if it's as tasty as good as the blood of the young, because I don't plan on drinking it myself, but anyway, I'll take what I can get.
And I mean, you get right at it. These are almost movie level cliches of crazed billionaires trying to beat death, but I think failing to actually live life. Another interesting character. Yeah, I mean, Elon's one of my favorite broken clocks. Like Jared Leto, the interesting Laurel Canyon figure. He's got a movie called Mr. Nobody, where he is one of the last people who hasn't had an interference that helps you live and live and live. It's maybe half a little bit of Logan's Run, but I think a lot of the film is him lying on his deathbed as the last icky human that's going to die as he's remembering all of these things. I've never actually seen it. As long as we're mentioning sketchy folks and some of their, best work, one of my favorite Woody Allen jokes is, I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it through not dying. Castbot runs newworldnextweek.com. That's got you New World Next Week. Oh, I don't think there's any hats. I'll stop talking about the hats we don't have in stock. Everything that's in stock is at newworldnextweek.com. And I also play the exclusive audio of these New World Next Week episodes on my Monarchy stream at MediaMonarchy.com/listen. James, I have gone 24/7. If you play it in VLC, it'll show you the artist. It'll show you the title. My shows are on there. Our shows are on there. I hit my microphone. It's fantastic.
Excellent. Good plug. I hope people will check it out. And you raised the specter of Limitless earlier, right? With Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro. I haven't seen that movie about achieving 100%, unlocking 100% of your brain power. But I have watched Lucy, starring Scarlett Johansson. It's a Luc Besson film. Have you seen that one? It is
I have not.
Bonkers. It is an absolutely incredibly bad movie in ways that are baffling and made it somewhat entertaining. So if you are looking for an incredibly bad movie, I would suggest that one.
Yeah, it's a low bar right there. It's possible did Chemical Brothers do the score? That might be the main thing that I might know about it.
Yeah,
I might
don't
be
remember
mixing
the
it up.
score. I just remember how absolutely bafflingly terrible that movie was. But anyway,
Well, James,
that
that's New World Next Week, episode 636. We are going to turn our air conditioners back on. UK be damned.
Exactly. All right. Thank you. Let's do it again.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks.